We have gone live. It's 7 o'clock.
Exactly for you.
And can I just get a round of applause for VR? Really appreciate all of the new folks. I'm DJ. I am the organizer of NYVR. We are 10 years plus holding events. And I'm also the CCO at the glTF group, which hosts this space. So, I got a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get right into the presentations. We have a little bit more than our usual content tonight. A couple people are in town, and a couple timely things, so I was like, let's squeeze you guys in. So we'll try and get through all the content in the next hour, and then we'll get back to networking and demos. First off, I always like to ask, who is here for the first time? Please raise your hand. Whoa! Awesome. That's amazing. Awesome. Welcome. So NYVR simple mission statement is to simply help grow and support the XR community in New York City. So for all you new folks, if there's anything that I can help you with, just come up to me, ask a question. It's a really embracing community here, and everyone here is to help you in whatever you're looking to get out of the meetup. As I mentioned, thanks to the glTF group for providing the event space here. Looks like we will be here for next year, and working on programming all of those events in the next few weeks. So very excited to continue on. Want to thank all of our volunteers, so Anthony and Jean and Steve, and Jordan is not here, I don't think, but thank you so much for all the work that you guys do to help put this show on. Just a reminder, we do live broadcast the presentations. The link is in the meetup description, and they all get recorded, so you can go back and take a look at them. Sorry, the quality of the video is not that great. It's just my iPad, but we're on a budget. For all you new folks, we do something called the NYVR Collaboration Group. The Collaboration Group is meant to connect folks that are trying to get into the industry and want to work on a project. What I'll typically do is connect like a Unity developer to an artist, to a project manager, and set the group off on some project. Maybe it's a charity project, but it's a way of starting to meet some people and to work on a portfolio piece. It's really been very helpful for people getting into the industry. So if anyone is interested in that, just come up at the end. Send me an email with what your skill sets are, and then I will team you up with like-minded folks. Always on the hunt for other presenters and any XR startups. So if any of you are working on stuff, or if you find somebody that is working on stuff and they would like a little bit of exposure, maybe they want to test something and get some community feedback, just send them my way, and happy to program them into future events. We have an amazing holiday event coming up next week with all of the wonderful other communities that there's just amazing groups. So the XR Guild is here tonight, AWE and the VRARA. It's kind of an informal setting. There's a bar. There's going to be a lot of XR folks. And the link to the event is actually in the meetup discussion board. It's a party-full thing there, but you can grab it from me afterwards also. So super excited about that. I unfortunately have a daughter coming back from college. I don't think I can make it. Sorry. All right, a couple other events coming up. We have this event up in Chicago. There's a deadline to submit for it on 1/8/25. They're looking for XR educators. You can hit that QR code or come up to get more information afterwards. This is super cool. So next month, we're not going to be in this space for the meetup. We're going to go uptown to the Eclipso new VR arcade immersive expedition journey facility. It's super cool. There's going to be a discount code. There's space for 50 of us. It's a private event. We're going to have an hour of networking before, and then everyone that goes will get to go through the experience. There's 2 experiences there. One's Egyptian, the other one is art history. I've been through both. They're fantastic. It's all free roam. It takes about 40 minutes. Super cool. They're pushing the edge of the tech, and highly recommend it. So the official announcement will go out probably on Monday, but if you want to grab your seat before they all disappear, you can go to the meetup page and you'll see I just posted it today, but I didn't announce it, so I'm going to announce it on Monday. And one other thing with this, you'll have to buy the ticket, so you'll RSVP to the meetup, but you also have to buy the ticket, which is on their account. So if you want to go, you got to do both of those things. MIT Reality Hack. Who is aware of the MIT Reality Hack? Raise your hand. Okay. The people that don't know, Google it. It's a super cool hackathon up in Boston. It just keeps on growing. It's really an amazing opportunity. So if you're interested in that, highly, highly recommend checking that out. Then the Polys is coming up. So Ben is going to be talking a little bit about that as a bunch of other stuff, but the Polys is a 5th annual award for immersive content, WebXR. Ben will talk a little bit more about it. But nominations just went open, right?
Yeah, polys.com/nominate, deadline's New Year's Eve.
Cool. And I didn't put this out before, but what I've been doing is getting people's favorite experiences. So if you want to submit your favorite experience, I'm going to flip through. This is what I've compiled to date. So I'll leave this up. So if you've seen something super cool, please submit that to it. And then I'll tabulate it. I'll give you guys a second to do that. All right. And then take a picture of this, because this is your homework for your weekends to go and try. It's kind of in alphabetical, but I put the ones that get the most votes up in the top left. Shout out to Walkabout Mini Golf. All right. And the new Batman is pretty awesome. Okay. Thanks to Seed, we have a new LinkedIn page also. If you're not on that page, there's a bunch of great content on it. Hit that QR code. We're kind of using that LinkedIn as our main channel. Okay, that was a lot of housekeeping. My apologies. I think I got through everything. Let's get on to the meat and potatoes. We have 2 quick presentations from DJ Manny and from Matthew, and then we'll get into our main presenters right after that. So, with that, one last thing. Sorry, I knew there was another thing. We do Q&A a little bit differently. After each presenter, I'm going to show this same QR code. So if you have questions, put your question into this form, and then I'm going to have all the presenters up at the end, where I'll curate the questions and we'll get answers from everyone. So it works really good. And I will show this after every presenter. So with that, DJ Manny, come on down. You're the next contestant. For sure.
How you doing, everybody? My name is DJ Manny Flasso. I'm from Meta Horizon World. Have any of you been to Meta Horizon? Anybody? Put your hands in the air. Meta Horizon. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We're a nice community. You know what I mean? My team has done, we are royalty rating media. And I'm a music producer and DJ. I DJ for people like Curtis Blow, Dougie Fresh, Salt and Pepper. I brought my company into the metaverse in 2022. We started doing music showcases in the metaverse, concerts. We created stages just like this. We have done so much in the metaverse, music-wise, and connecting people all over the world. My motto is stop thinking local and start thinking global. And I manifested that in Meta Horizon World. I do music and produce music with people in Argentina, UK, Canada, and all over the United States. It's so lucrative. Before I got monetized, a lot of the creators and artists and DJs, they weren't making money in our space. So we created winter jams and summer jams so they could sell tickets. We sold tickets last year for our This is Hold Up, Hold Up. He's from Tennessee, performing live at Meta Horizon at our last year's Summer Jams. Summer Jams is also sponsored by Hot 97 here in New York. Hot 97 has got my back for the past 2 years in the metaverse, music-wise, and they have been helping me and sponsoring me and getting us on a radio show. We are syndicated on Spotify, so you can listen to us at Hot 97 as we interview artists, and you can hear me spin my music. I spin a lot of music, a lot of hip-hop greats, but it's really focused on our show. Our show is January 11th. It's a winter jam. Tickets is $10. You can join on mobile now. It's the best thing. You can join on your cell phone. And like I said, all the artists are from all over the world. And they're coming together in one night in the metaverse for a great time, for a great music experience, and to show you all their talent. It's very lucrative. We've been doing it now for 3 years, and we've been going strong with it. Meta has really pushed us, and before they even got involved, we were pushing ourselves as a community. I can say, if I haven't met, like Jean, where's Jean? Jean. Jean is known in our community. She comes to all of my events. She comes to all of my events. Every time I'm booked as a DJ, she comes. I would have met Jean. I'm from Queens, she's in Brooklyn. You know, I wouldn't have met her. I wouldn't. We weren't in the same circles. I wouldn't have met this guy right here. This guy right here taught me a lot. He scraped on me last year at the XR deal about being serious about my LinkedIn. A lot of my friends respect your work. I respect your work. I didn't know NYVR was big as you are. Gene said you guys have been around since 2016. And I just feel like our Meta Horizon community needs to know about you guys too. And just like you guys should come into Meta Horizon, because there's a lot of people doing a lot of things. And it's not just music. It's a lot of creators. The sky is the limit there. You know, I started out as a DJ in the metaverse, and now I script. I just released my first game. It's on mobile. It's called Jungle Jams. So the sky is the limit in the metaverse. I thank you all for the talk. You know, I don't want to keep you. DJ said I can talk to you. I gotta keep it going. But I'll be here. Y'all can talk to me after, and I hope to see more and more of you in Meta Horizon. My name is DJ Manny Flasso. You can find me on Instagram at Royalty Radio Media. Because of him, you can find me on LinkedIn. And you know, I'm on LinkedIn. I got mad love for everybody. Thank you for having me, DJ. I will be back again. Please look out for Winter Jams. There we go. These are the past concerts we did in the Metaverse. The Meta Connect concert, we did Summer Jam. We did Winter Jam. This will be our 3rd year on January 1st. On January 11th, we have over 20 artists, 5 stages, multiple genres, and the tickets is only $10. Most of the proceeds go right back to all of the artists that are in the Metaverse performing. We even have, like this guy right here, this is Meta Grandpa. He's 78 years old. He plays the guitar, and he's the best. He lives in Africa. So it's like, it's multiple genres on one stage. And I hope to see you all up there. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I love that. It's awesome to see that. That's grassroots in Horizon. I love it. All right. Next, we got, if you have questions, DJ Manny, hit that up. And next, we got Mathieu coming. Mathieu has a super cool platform for science and education. He's demoing it over there. Come on up and tell the group about what you're up to. Just hit that up.
Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Mathieu. So obviously I'm from Montreal, of course. So what we are doing is a lab in a pocket. We try to wrap it up in 5 minutes. I could do a 3-hour talk, and I would have a lot of things to say. So rapidly, in fact, it's the second project I'm doing. I did that first project. I'm teaming with my brother, and we did that first project a few years ago. We did telemedicine software, before the people even knew what telemedicine was, and we sold our software to Philips, the Netherlands company, and now the software is in every medical device Philips in the world. So it's like in thousands and thousands of different devices. So now the second thing is the lab in a pocket. And so what's happening is that we have been approached a few years ago by schools all around, like in Canada and US, because they have the difficulties putting students in their science labs for a lot of reasons. And to answer to answer that, we did a complete high-tech instant lab. So we're talking about chemistry, physics, electricity, and also microscope techniques, biology. So it's an augmented reality. So you see the Quest 3, in fact, captured there. And there's more FPS than what you see on the screen. It's very jaggy there. So you can do pretty much everything. We have around 100 different experiences. It took 10 years to do, so we are collaborating with different universities, and now we are just beginning to commercialize it. So we are actively right now singing distribution partnerships around the world. So we have like France, UK, Canada, South Korea. We hope to partner with LIMS for the US and France. And yeah, we have a lot of collaboration. So I'm the founder, yeah, my brother is like is doing marketing. We have different collaborators, so my background is I did 2 PhDs, one in pharmacy and one in public health. That's what gives me the background to develop our algorithm. And my brother is a cardiologist who is working more on the microscope and marketing also, and a bunch of developers and collaborators around the world. So we hope to be in pretty much every schools around the world, maybe within 2 years. That's our target. If you want to try it, right now there's a demo on the Horizon store. You just have to type Proteus labs, and you can do pretty much the same lab I have in a demo at the back. So that's it. So I think you will probably, if you have any children at home, probably they will use our labs within let's say maybe a few months to a few years, but we hope to be everywhere. So this way, you will have mixed reality in every school, so it's very cool. And for the techies people, we are using Unreal Engine 5. We have the mega grants from Epix. They are very good partners. We partner also with Meta. Yeah, and that's pretty much it in 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mathieu. And I totally agree. MR in schools is definitely the next thing. So with that, Brennan, come on up. I'm going to let you talk about all the different things that you're involved with, because there's a lot, and it's all amazing.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Ready here?
Hold on. The news. Hold on.
You ready here? Scroll. And New York City XR in the House represent. Woo! And NYVR in the House.
That's right.
So, all right. Thank you, DJ, for inviting me here. I've been looking forward to this for a couple of months, actually. So, really appreciate the invitation. And I am pumped to be here tonight. 2 weeks ago, I gave the keynote talk at the Immersive X conference. And in it, I made fun of the hype cycle. And I stood high atop the peak of inflated expectations, and I plunged into the trough of disillusionment. I struggled to climb the slope of enlightenment onto the plateau of productivity, and since then, we've had not one, but 2 watershed moments that brought us much needed good news. That's me on the hype cycle right there. There's a plateau of productivity. We got the good old trough of disillusionment. And in VR, I was able to like teleport and fail to climb up it. And so I am here to tell you that after the metaverse reached peak hype 3 years ago, and we all collectively fell into the trough of disillusionment, I see the signs we are now on the slope of enlightenment. And that's it. Right now, I'm calling it. We are on the slope of enlightenment. And earlier this year, the Apple Vision Pro portended a turnaround. Last week, hold on, am I out of? Oh no! No! I'm missing a slide. I'm missing a lot of slides. That James Cameron, if anybody saw my LinkedIn post, made a partnership with Meta, a multi-year deal for their future tech that only he has seen so far. But what this validates is something I've been saying for a long time, is that Hollywood is going to be bringing the content. And I hope New York brings a lot of that content as well. I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But what this means is that this big investment is that the content is going to be flowing into the ecosystem. Let the spice flow, so to speak. And this morning, another huge sign. There was a bipartisan legislation introduced, the America Leadership in Immersive Technology Act of 2024.
Yeah.
Yes. Legislation for immersive technology, and what this means is that there's going to be an advisory panel, and they're going to be meeting 3 or 4 times a year, and they're going to be advising the government on investment in immersive technology. And the word immersive technology was mentioned 39 times in this document. Metaverse, 0. Spatial computing, 0. And virtual and augmented and mixed reality, they were actually mentioned in there, but they didn't lean into VR, MR, AR, XR, which are great for us because we're in the know, we've been the true believers, we've been here for years, but it's not really the consumer accessible term. But for years, I've been leaning into the term immersive technology. People sort of associate me with WebXR, but really from the beginning, the polys, and if you've seen the trailer that I just dropped the other day, Julie and everybody in all the hosts and presenters, they've been talking about immersive technology. And the immersive is the art form, it is the medium, it is the content that you're inside of, it surrounds you. And this year, I co-founded the Academy of Immersive Arts and Sciences. And right here in the great state of New York. And fellow New Yorker Robin White Owen sits on our board. Some of you might know Robin. And just as a matter of hometown pride, I want to see and indeed work towards seeing New York be if not the immersive capital of the world. Hell yeah! So, collectively, I want us to envision the boon to the economy that immersive can be to the New York metropolitan area. And to help us not just solve for inequities here, but everywhere. And so what is the Academy, and why? Why is the Academy? Now, we publicly wear our hearts on our sleeve that we want to be the gold standard of the Immersive Awards, and that we want it to be associated with New York City. Though unlike the Academies of Motion Picture and Television and Recording, Arts and Sciences, we are not a business league, we are a 501c3 public charity, which means that donations to the Academy are tax deductible. And our ethos is to educate, inspire, and recognize. And this is our homage to Gizmo. And so, although I talk about our New York roots, Immersive is a global movement. And the Academy looks at itself as a worldwide organization. 3 of our 9 board members live outside the United States, in the UK, France, and Australia. And I've got 2 theses for you today. And let me see if I have those slides. I do not. So I'll just talk about them. I'll just hang out on that slide. Thesis one is that the immersive content distribution model will be affordable subscriptions. And the same way that existing premium content, premium services now bundle content, just like you only watch most movies only once, most immersive experiences you won't watch over and over. There, of course, will be the Star Wars and superhero movies or whatever you're into, whatever your fandom is that you'll do over and over again. But for the most part, you'll want to see more and more, and that's why paying $30 for a video game isn't a sustainable model. And I honestly think it's slowing us down right now. So it doesn't scale to hundreds of millions of subscribers like Netflix, say, does. When you can pay $6 or $16 a month and have vast libraries of quality content, then we will see the money unlocked, which will produce the content. And one of the bills I don't balk at paying these days are my streaming subscriptions, because they employ an army of content creators. And thesis two is that the existing movie studios, which also have their streaming plays, are likely to dominate this market. But right now, with few exceptions, you don't see these services on immersive app stores. One important exception is Disney Plus on Apple Vision Pro, and their content, like What If, is really only the beginning. And has anybody seen the Apple Vision Pro What If? Okay, 3, 4 people in the room, 5 people in the room have seen that. I am not one of them, but I did see Vicki Beck from ILM X Lab make a presentation last month in Hollywood, and so I sort of saw the making of it, and I get where they're going with it, and like the whole idea of having a cartoon of, or the animation of the watcher in 3D in your room is extremely compelling. And so this is just a glimpse of the things that are to come that are so powerful. And we'll probably see a Netflix blockbuster moment or two, where one visionary new kid on the block gets it right, and the other one misses the boat and dies of obsolescence. And this could be you, and I mean the one that is the visionary new kid on the block. This is to say that our sector is rife with opportunity, and James Cameron's Meta deal is only the beginning. It was the first domino to fall. Those that heard that starting gunshot will have an advantage, and those that didn't will be playing catch-up. We see at the Academy the PBS and BBC as a North Star of producing and distributing nutritious brain food that nurtures the human mind and spirit with educational, cultural, artistic, scientific, historical, and public affairs content. And the other day, I came across a Nani de la Peña documentary called Hunger in Los Angeles. It was from 2013, and it declared that immersive is the future of journalism. So what happened? Why haven't we seen that? It's 11 years later. Well, I believe that immersive is still the future of journalism. We just don't have the device penetration. We don't have the investment doing that. But ultimately, we're going to bring the human family closer together by people being able to experience stories from places they aren't, not just in a 2D context, but actually take us there. And we're still in the chicken and the egg scenario, where even though we don't have the devices or the content yet, we're going to need immersive journalism to involve people in these stories. And when people mock Apple's very shrewd strategy of pricing the device out of consumers' reach, they don't get how smart that is and why. Simply, Apple needs a content ecosystem, and giving devs and creators 2 or 3 years to get that together will make the devices that they release in 2027, 2028 must have and status symbols. And by 2030, I believe the consumer market will be fully penetrated and the immersive content will be mainstream. Then we will finally surmount the plateau of productivity. And I will conclude this part of my talk to say that the Academy of Immersive Sciences is looking for corporate and philanthropic end-of-year giving to support our operations and programs and growth. So if your company can help, you or you know one that does, please reach out. And the Academy can thank you with a tax-deductible receipt. And the Polys is a fiscally sponsored program that could use your support too. And the Polys will be held on February 23rd at WLab at the NYU 10 School of Engineering at Brooklyn Navy Yard. Julie Smithson, Sophia Mashasha, and the whole gang will be back to host our annual cavalcade of XR celebrities, like DJ Smith here, and so save the date. We are now the Poly's Immersive Awards. We have been the WebXR all along, and we will continue to advocate for WebXR as the most accessible distribution platform based on open standards. So now, I promised you some updates on technology, specifically WebXR, WebGPU, glTF, and Open USD. And here's where things stand in my opinion. From my perch as a board member of the Metaverse Standards Forum, I see a lot about what's happening in the industry. And I must disclaim that I'm not here representing the Metaverse Standards Forum, and my opinions are my own. Opinions such as gaming engines, you know who they are too big to fail. And where I'm going with that is that they're not based on open standards. They talk a lot about open standards, but who's open standards? They're open standards. And an open standard is something that is widely adopted. And so that gives me pause, because the ecosystem has seen too many rug pulls. And AltSpace and Spark AR, just two examples of platforms with strong creator communities that just found out one day that it was gone. And one day a company can just decide that it isn't profitable anymore, and a company that hosts your experience with a lock-in subscription can die. And then you're just out of luck. And this is why I advocate for open standards. We want one thing, and that is for the immersive content that creators make today to still be here tomorrow. And that's what I mean by durable. And there are things coming, new standards that are in early days, but will be transformative to have on your radar. And of course, there's WebXR, which is not new. People associate me with WebXR because I created the WebXR Awards, the WebXR Summits, and I believe WebXR has a bright future because it's an open standard. Same way HTML and CSS and JavaScript prevail because they're durable. You can still open an old web page in a browser today. You probably cannot open a project in a gaming engine that was produced in the 20-teens. So the same way your apps are inside of a phone today, similarly it will make your ability to ship experiences more universal when WebXR is inside the app. Now, WebGPU is a very, very important part of what is to come, because right now the code inside a browser is executed at a high level, which accounts for the performance issues and why everything is still so low poly. WASM, or WebAssembly, such as experiences such as built in Wonderland, utilize the CPU. Once we have immersive web browsers executing code utilizing the GPU, then we'll have more performant experiences and give a whole new frontier of boundaries to push. So I'd like to encourage all creators to keep a very close eye on WebGPU, which is in fact WebGL3 and maintained by the W3C instead of the Kronos group, which fostered the development of WebGL. Ken Russell, who has been a big part of the evolution of WebGL, is being honored with the Lifetime Achievement Award at this year's Polys. He was selected by Neil Trevitt, and another important Kronos group spec, glTF, is also very important to the ecosystem. It is the most widely used model format because it is the most portable. It compiles easily into a binary format. The GLB file is what's used in WebXR, and where other formats like FBX that don't have textures and materials baked in, another reason for glTF's important is that it's extensible, meaning that they are able to safely expand the specification while making it backwards compatible. glTF has all sorts of goodness, and another spec which is still a ways off from everyday use, but in my opinion is important to pay attention to, is Open USD. Now, USD standing for Universal Scene Description, it's really all right there in the name, originated as a Pixar proprietary format, and that is what you see when you look at Pixar's lovely animated, amazing catalog of 3D animated movies. And NVIDIA uses USD as a native format in its Omniverse platform. My prediction is that Open USD is going to become critical to the ecosystem, and it will be the move to glTF's .mp4 of 3D. And at AWE in June, I concluded my talk with a quote from Patrick Cozy, which sadly I don't seem to have that slide either. But it goes, I would rather own a smaller slice of the pie. I'd rather grow the pie and own a smaller piece of it than try to own the pie. And that really resonated with me because Patrick, I admire the work he's done not only for creating an amazing company, which just got acquired by the massive Bentley Systems recently. CCM is a sponsor of this year's Polys, and it feels really good for me because CCM and Patrick's ethos has always been about standards interoperability, and that philosophy has allowed him to build a company that thrived while the industry plunged into the trough of disillusionment. And CCM did this by giving away their software and licensing their API. In other words, CCM's vast curated geospatial database with 3D tiles that has become the engine behind Google Earth and is licensed to the government is how they make their money, and it scales magnificently. But any of you can build on their software using their platform for free, and if you build a commercial application that makes money, you can afford to pay their license fees. And I think that that's a really, really good example for people to look at in terms of the business model for the future. So if you adopt open standards, not necessarily open source, but that's good too, rather than thinking your patent and your trade secret is somehow going to make you the next unicorn, then you stand a chance of disrupting proprietary systems and getting an advantage that will become very competitive in the ecosystem. And so I leave you tonight, my fellow New York immersive technology professionals, as you're considering how to make your impact on this ecosystem. Think immersive first. Think 3D, experienced in 3D. Don't target those 2D surfaces because that has been done. WebXR is great because it does both. Don't go for the mature market with 1 million competitors. Go for the fledgling market with only a few thousand. And that's why we're here. We get that. But when you design experiences and application, think immersive and build immersive first, because in a few years, that's where all the opportunities will be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. Like, get the QR code for questions, and we will bring up Hillary. Awesome. Got it.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you, DJ, and thank you to all of you for hanging out with us tonight. I have a very different story to tell, so it's kind of a great juxtaposition. Let me start with my little slide here. Just want to give you a very quick backstory, because I think it gives you context for the work that I want to talk about tonight. I began kind of my first chapter as a conceptual artist. I worked in collaboration. I made work that was large-scale, installation-based, material-based. I had this kind of extraordinary opportunity to travel around the world. We were in Whitney Biennial. We were doing all kinds of amazing things. And about a decade in, I pivoted. Into design tech. I think the nascent web was calling, and I was very excited to say, hey, could we take a higher aesthetic and a kind of way an artist thinks and apply that to this brand new space. And I know it's probably not brand new for most of you, but at the time it really was Web 1.0. I mean, it was brand new. And my niche was arts and culture and education. My very first client was the Harvard Design School, which is a great first client. We did some Sony Museum. We actually made a civics game for the former Supreme Court Justice Samuel Connor. So we had a lot of success in the interactive space. We did the South Bys and the Webbies and all that good stuff. And once again, I kind of hit a moment and I pivoted. And I had an opportunity. I was thinking about kind of how I wanted to be in the world. It was the rise of social media. I wasn't that interested in that. And I thought about how can I have more impact in the world. And I got very excited. This may seem like a little left field, but I got very excited by neuroscience and how the brain worked. And I was given an opportunity by a sort of a new organization. It was an arts incubator, and they invited artists to come in. And the idea was, could you lever the artistic imagination in the service of solving a big problem? And could you do that with scientists? And I was, of course, extremely excited about this because I did have a big problem I wanted to solve. I've always been through both, sort of art and my digital career, very fascinated by language in terms of, in the broadest sense of kind of how we make meaning, how we use language to make meaning, and how it makes us. And at that moment, I was feeling really quite despondent about the world. I was feeling like I actually couldn't talk to anybody anymore. There was something going on, and I thought, gee, is language broken? So they invited me to pitch a project. I thought, wow, if language is this, is this agreement that we have between people, right? And it's based on a shared mental model of the world. What's going to happen to language in the future if we don't share that model of the world, and if we don't, even share a common fact base? What's going to happen to our ability as humans to communicate and more existentially to cooperate and to survive as a species? So I pitched this crazy idea. They said be crazy. I said okay, and I said I'm going to look at what I want to do is I want to remake language for the future. I want to understand what is language going to look like in the future if these things transpire. Remarkably, they said yes, and they gave me this opportunity to find collaborators, and I chose a neuroscientist who happened to be UK-based, because I had this weird idea that I wanted to see, could I make art design explicitly for the human brain? And I wanted to understand if that was possible. And I felt like this was really about language, and so I also got to work with a cognitive linguist. And so imagine that we're at the start of the pandemic. This is early 2020. The world is shut down, and I started this beautiful series of conversations over Zoom. And so what I'd like to talk about tonight is what happened. This is the story of what happened. So have you ever seen a flock of birds flying in extraordinary coordination, and then they turn on a dime as if they're a single organism flying as one? I've always been very fascinated by this and finding it mesmerizing. And it turns out that flocks do this by instinct, right? So there's following very simple rules: fly through the center of the flock, don't collide, match your speed and direction with your next neighbors. And out of these simple rules and local neighbor interactions, the flock is able to do something together that no single bird could do alone. Now, scientists call this emergence. And emergence literally means when a whole is greater than some of the parts. When these interacting parts self-organize and become a higher order of complexity. So, we see examples of emergence, in many systems, in many complex systems, from, birds and schooling fish to ecosystems, economies, cities, and even in conscious brains. And I just thought, wow, nature cooperates in these astonishing ways. Could it be possible that emergence be, a model and a method for human cooperation? Is there something we could learn here in terms of what was going on in our own society? So I went to my neuroscientist and I said, hey, do you think people could do this? And he said, yeah, I think they could. We started to talk about how we might measure human emergence and how we might prime people for this. And, scientists like to measure things. And he said, oh, well, in my lab, we've just developed an algorithm that quantifies emergence in any system. Maybe we could use it. I said, great. So he talked to his postdoc, he called me back 2 days later and said, yeah, we're really excited to do this. Because of course they had developed this landmark algorithm. Now emergence, just for those of you who aren't familiar with it, has actually been around since Aristotle. But the issue was no one could really measure it. And so in Daniel's lab, they were studying disorders of consciousness. And they wanted to see in the brain, so the idea is that cognition is an emergent property of neurons in the brain. And they wanted to see if they could figure out why some brains with, Alzheimer's or dementia, that person performed better than the person who had equal pathology but wasn't as functional in the world. So they were measuring emergence of the brain. They had this algorithm. They were very excited to apply it to a human population. And that had never actually been done. So what came out of these conversations was a live action cooperation game for a divided world that is modeled on complex systems and developed with this brilliant team of neuroscientists in the UK. And rather than tell you about it, I want to just show you a 30-second clip and show you what it looks like. And then I can break it down a little bit, talk about the technology, the science, the experience, the applications, and kind of what's next for us. So what did you just look at? So what is Synch.Live? Synch.Live is a group game. It is played with between 10 and 20 people so far, but it will hopefully scale. Everybody's wearing hats, and I brought a hat here. We can show it to you later if anybody wants to check out the physical thing. And the hats have LED lights. And the idea of the game is that you have to figure out how to synchronize all of the lights on all of the hats. But you can't talk, these are the rules, you can't talk, you can't touch, and you have to keep moving. We've tried there's several different game challenges, that's the basic game, there's other really fun things that we do. We were just in LA, we've now played Synch.Live with 750 people. We did 12 events this year, culminating in the big event at Night Games in LA, at the Game Developers, at Indie Game Developers Festival. What you're seeing here is that's just a group of people who are synchronizing and emerging. We actually have responsive audio and responsive video, so this is just a data visualization that's tracking the people's hats. So let me tell you kind of a little bit about how it works. So Synch.Live is a game, it's also a technology, and we are the first to quantify flocking behavior in humans using this feedback mechanism. We've integrated the algorithms from the scientists, and we're measuring a macro and a micro aspect of the system, and we're calculating mathematically whether or not there's more in the whole than there is in the individual trajectory. So we're doing position tracking. I'm sitting here looking at Robert, who's our game master. And so what you're looking at here is that's what the hat looks like. We first did it, and the first time we did it, sort of publicly was in London in June of 2022. We did it with 300 people, and we used computer vision for position tracking. Came back to New York, redeveloped the tech using ultra wideband for lots of reasons that we can talk about later. And so what you're seeing in the upper picture is that's just one of the anchor points for the ultra wideband board, and we're using BitCraze technology, which is actually drone positioning technology. And so the technology, we're doing position tracking, we're feeding that information into the algorithm, and the algorithm is then feeding back information to the hats, which are going to blink more synchronously as people become more emergent until they ultimately turn rainbow. The science is super cool. The first time we did it in London, the scientists actually designed a study with ethics approval and so forth. We found that players in winning groups experience significantly higher connectedness to others. So there's incredible potential for kind of social and well-being benefits for the application of this. Dan, who's super interested in metacognition, looked at whether people were aware of the strategies they used and whether those strategies made them kind of more likely to be in a winning group, and in fact they did. And what this speaks to, again, this is all very basic research and we're just at the beginning, but it speaks to individual contribution to collective effort. That if individuals are more aware of what they're doing and are more likely to be in winning groups, then they're actually helping to produce that win. The other thing that Dan did later is that he took 10-second clips of patterns that the hats generated. And he had subjects rate those patterns as more or less beautiful, and he found that emergent patterns were indeed considered subjectively more beautiful, which I think is, again, another future, super interesting thing to think about in terms of how we work. But so we did a paper, collective problem solving through flocking motion. I can give you a link to that if you read it. It's pretty cool. It's my first time being an author in a scientific paper, so I was pretty excited. And it's been presented at conferences and posters and all sorts of fun stuff. And that science continues. So applications, what are we going to do with this? I was talking to Mathieu before, very cool, showing his demo with the science lab, love that. But just about, he's been at this for 10 years, and I'm like, okay, so I've been at this for 5 years, so I'm thinking maybe if in 10 years I'm where he is, that would be an amazing thing. So we came back from LA, we did, like I said, 12 events this year, and it's just a moment really of inflection in the project where you're just trying to figure out what is my highest and best use case. Because there's so many incredible things that we want to do with this project, but we can only do one really well right now. So it works really well in the immersive entertainment game space. Indicate the audience was fantastic. We had people that, groups of people that came in and actually created, to me it looked like a sea anemone, but I had a weird brain, but it was like a machine. They actually worked together and created something completely new. And we're laughing. It was an amazing moment. We had a number of kids come. We had these 3 little girls who came like 4 times. So there was something very, kids like playing the pads, of course, as we all do, but it was just something compelling. We actually had a person in a wheelchair play the game, which was very cool because we never had that before, and it worked really well. So there's the game immersive entertainment space that would require a more theatrical staging, which we're interested in and excited for. On the sort of team building side, one of the things I'm super excited about is this idea of group IQ and the idea that can we measure individual contribution to collective effort? And could we actually create a data point, right? That now, I have kids and they hate group work, right? I'm not going to put me in another group, and so people don't really like group work, but would there be but the group work is our future, right? There's, think about, collective intelligence, think about the huge problems we have to solve as a society. We need everybody's brains working together to create something. So there's something kind of interesting to me about understanding how teams work and applying Synch.Live to that. There's a big potential in the sort of community connection wellness space. We've had some really interesting conversations with people doing work with psychedelics. The psychedelics is this notion of, what is it called? Mystical, it's called an MTE, mystical type experience, right? And so is it possible that we could actually manifest awe through this? Like through the experience of becoming something greater than the sum of your parts, even if it's momentary, could we experience the magic of awe, right? That to me would be super amazing. And finally, this is a platform for science research. And we're excited and open to bring in researchers who have their own questions, because this is very flexible and very, open to researching all kinds of questions, not just around sort of how things move and collective behavior, but in any field. Anyway, that is it for me for tonight. I am so grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. All right, we got QAs for Hillary and Jay. Come on up. We got 2 more speakers, so we're a little bit late on time, but it's all good time.
Try to make up some time here. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, DJ, for inviting me out. My name is Jay Viola. I'm the CEO of The Cuttlefish, which is a location-based immersive technology company. So we deal with anything that's having to do with immersive locations and high technology. This could be a purpose-built destination, and most often these days we're seeing museums and places like that take on a little bit more of this. A little bit about myself. I studied communication design at Carnegie Mellon during the late 90s. That was kind of the dawn of the internet, which was a pretty interesting time. I went directly into digital world building, all sorts of online digital experiences, game experiences. And then in 2014, I started my company Out of Body VR because I dove headfirst into VR and never looked back. Started with 360 videos, which was the only way to make money back then, doing everything from very, very early volumetric capture to AR, VR, and mixed reality headset experiences that we brought over to CES. I'll speak a little bit about the company itself. So, what am I talking about tonight? We did a project which was called Citrovia. It was a location-based immersive experience here in New York City, 33rd Street and 9th Avenue. The brief from the client was a very large commercial development company, Brookfield Properties. They're known for buying an entire block of Manhattan and redeveloping it to be multi-use spaces. So this particular space right across from Moynihan Station has two very large towers. There's a Whole Foods, there's a Danny Myers restaurant, there's all sorts of great stuff over there, very, very high end. They had a big problem though. During the construction of the second tower, they had this very, very ugly shed, and they had active businesses operating in the lower levels of the building that was there. So they're like, how do we make an earnest commitment to the businesses that are there to bring more foot traffic to the area? So what they decided to do is they decided to let a couple of knuckleheads pitch a crazy idea and take on a $15 million project to build something in the middle of Manhattan. And that was Citrovia. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing a shot from 9th Avenue that looks straight down this public plaza. You can see the scaffolding there. We designed it so that it had kind of a lower tier at the beginning, so you can see these big, beautiful trees in the middle. And then finally, if you were to walk entirely through the experience, we had what we were calling our Instagram moment. So this was not just the fabricated components of it. There were many different components, which I'll go through, including a very, very elaborate lighting display that was above head. So to take you through, what was involved in this project, because I think it's sort of interesting to kind of unpack it a little bit. A very, very boring infrastructure. So, building a network, fiber everywhere. There was DMX lighting, running XLR cables. There was a variety of different computer systems. There were harsh environments. Most of this stuff was underground and was going to be outside in the world, in the cold, and all the like. So we're trying to develop a system that was going to not only be able to do all the communications necessary to make this immersive experience feel like magic, because nobody wants to see a bunch of technology hanging out when you're trying to feel like you've been teleported to somewhere completely different. But what we were able to do is have full command, remote access to the system, and then monitoring through this robust infrastructure. A second component, which was one of the principal ones, is how do you make people feel like they are somewhere else? It's very, very easy with VR. You're cut off to the world. You are only focused on that. But when you're creating a location-based experience, the pieces and the components of that are your playground. So we went to the best. We went to Disney and we looked at a variety of different experiences, and we were enamored by the Avatar experience. So we found the company that developed that, and we begged them to come work with us. Adirondack Studios in upstate New York, of all places, actually. So we began the process by pitching them on ideas, and originally it was like this crazy Willy Wonka style, like mushrooms and psychedelic stuff, and they were like, all right, you gotta back off on this. We are a corporate company. We don't think mushrooms are terribly appropriate for what we're trying to accomplish here, so let's back it off. So somebody had the suggestion of the Isle of Capri in Italy and lemons, and it's very fresh, and it kind of lended itself to this Avatar-esque. So you can see the trunk still retaining that's sort of psychedelia. But it started with 3D models, it started with dreaming big about what this thing could potentially be, playing with scale, like how do you make an entire lemon garden very interesting? So it was a variety of different plant types and flora and things that there was never a dull moment as you went through. There was always something interesting to take a look at, and the introduction of technology into the system. So, and then at different stops, we were developing in small scale little demonstrations of what this is going to look like, taking the clients through, making them feel as though they were going to be part of this process, and they knew what they were going to get towards the end. With a $15 million project that was going to take over a year long to accomplish, it was super important that there was never any surprises throughout this entire process. So we would have all of these test demos up in the studios, and large plot prints of how big these trees were going to be, to try and gauge just how incredible this experience is going to ultimately feel, when you start installing it. As you can see, it's a 35,000 square foot facility. They've got that's a whole oven room where they're doing all the curing of these fabricated pieces that are meant to withstand 95 mile an hour winds and all of New York City, weather throughout the course of the year. It's very, very interesting, a big learning process. I'm a guy who's been doing software and content for forever, so to learn about fabrication in real time was an interesting process. These trees needed to withstand, as I mentioned, 95 mile an hour winds. They were built with cast iron. They weighed almost a ton. They were crazy. So there's some pictures of the final piece. Some pictures of the installation here. The giant lemons, which was part of the sort of overall strategy and branding. The lighting in the cloud. So I mentioned, not only do we want the floor to feel like there's a certain level of immersion if you're seeing what's around you on the ground, but we knew that the overhead was going to bring a certain added level of immersion. So we envisioned this cloud, what we were calling the cloud, because otherwise it was just going to be an empty scaffolding, which was going to completely ruin this immersive experience. So we had a cloud, and then behind the cloud was basically a very elaborate light box, which we had $2 million worth of lights, that people could then come in and program and be able to, do a variety of looks over the course of the day to keep things fresh and interesting. Again, testing all of this stuff out along the way so the client understood and knew what we were trying to accomplish. Some installation bits here. The other important detail was how do you give your clients a way in which to control this? And a UX that was going to make it easy for them to be able to control the immersion depending upon whether they were having clients that they wanted to entertain in the space or whether they had different modalities that they were trying to do. So what we did was we actually built an entire experience management system and a lighting control system that spoke to these grandma DMX controllers through a Google Calendar. So the client was able to set up meetings in the Google Calendar, and then it would go in the Google Calendar and it read, okay, today is going to be, I don't know, it's Pride Day, so then the whole thing would, would light up with a look that was associated with the celebratory day or the moment or what have you. Again, just thinking through the ways in which to make it as simple as humanly possible for a client to do that. This also monitored all our health systems. We had smoke, fire, water sensors all throughout, temperature gauges to make sure that nothing was going wrong. One of the big details was, they wanted this thing to be captured. They wanted it to have a life outside of just, people were walking through it, looking up and feeling great about it and interested in it. They're like, how do we get this thing out here? So it was, when designing and developing this, it was like, where are these social moments, these Instagram moments? So do you remember those giant lemons that you saw in the beginning of the video? You should have seen what it took to create those things. They were about $50,000 a pop, and they took 3 months to cure them in these giant molds. I mean, it was crazy what we went through to do that. But again, one of the details for putting those large lemons is as a branding, like, oh, go meet me by the lemons. What is that? Oh, you'll know when you see them. That sort of a thing. And then for the people who made it all the way to the back, we created this sort of Instagram moment, knowing that that was going to be another important spot where people would start to take pictures and want to be able to share with others online. They did a launch, they did a bunch of promotions around it, which was kind of interesting. And the name Centrovia is not a liquor brand, as many people ask me. It's not a new flavored vodka. It was actually, we worked with a branding agency to kind of help come up with something. Brookfield Properties didn't want their name like scattered all over it. They wanted something that was different and unique. So they did that. Wayfinding was also an important detail here. We had 36-inch screens that allowed us to highlight any of the things that were happening event-wise throughout the day, and then also kind of give you like some stats about the build-out of this thing. We also had smaller ones which had this small interactive moment where you were able to, quote-unquote, name a plant. You click on the QR, it takes you to a web page, put in your name, your location, and then whatever you want to name the plant comes right up on that monitor, and then you can take a picture next to it in a way to kind of customize the garden, and then it would cycle through those over the course of the day. And then we created a whole level of deeper engagement. So it was like, all right, we've got this incredible experience. People are here, spending time in the space, feeling good about it. But how do you create yet another layer? So we developed a WebXR scavenger hunt where kids could come in and they could play with Easy Peasy and Lemon Squeezy, which were the characters that we developed, and they developed a coloring book around that. And there were a few games too. That were associated with it. There was a whack-a-mole style game and a music kind of beat making game. And if you completed all of these, you could go into the lobby and redeem it for a coloring book, that sort of thing. But it was a way in which for us to create yet another layer of the experience, to just extend it and really kind of let the branding sink in, let the moment sink in. And give kids something to do too, if they were totally bored in the first 30 seconds. Modalities. So different times of the year, it was important to try and make it feel and look different. So lighting did an incredible job to get us most of the way there. We worked with the fabrication company to come up with a couple of clever ways to sort of dress this experience. So when you were in the middle of winter, it didn't feel like you were in the middle of summer, in the middle of this immersive experience. Wanting to kind of extend that into the different modalities. So what were the results? They were getting about 10K visitors per day before this, so it did lift up traffic quite significantly. We were getting about 100 plus AR interactions a day, and that was without any kind of promotion. It was just a couple of small signs throughout the experience. They thought that was good. I thought it could be better. 550 name a plant, that seemed to be a more important one. What the client really wanted was they wanted to have the PR uptick in this thing. So we were able to get into Architectural Digest, New York Times, The New Yorker, a lot of different online locations, which was great for Brookfield Properties, being a development company, on the morning news shows. But the biggest thing that they didn't realize, they sort of planned for it, but they didn't quite realize just how much this thing was going to take off on social media. They had over 4.5 million impressions on TikTok alone, and it went from there and Instagram and other locations. And as you can see, we had Don Lemon visited the installation at one point, which was great. So a couple of key takeaways as I'm wrapping up here. 450 people worked on this project. It really took it took two knuckleheads plus 450 people to make this thing, and it was a learning experience from here on how to manage a budget of that size and the number of people that it took in all sorts of facets of the experience, not just the things that I'm most familiar with in the AR space, but also the fabrication space. Safety and accessibility when you're working on a public plaza was something I wasn't ready for, but clearly we did an okay job. We did have to indemnify the city of New York in case one of those lights were to fall on somebody. Thankfully that did not happen, nobody got hurt there. The ability for us to pivot during the different moments in time when budget was becoming an issue or there was scope creep was super, super important for us. A project like that size could put us out of business, in a heartbeat if the client wasn't willing to work with us to be able to pivot. And then making sure that you're right-sizing that scope so that you're retaining the profitability. And then that social amplification is a force multiplier. And the one thing that's been really interesting, and just this is the last detail before I wrap up here, one very, very interesting thing that I'm seeing about location-based immersive experiences nowadays is this trend towards the social media slant. Companies, big brands are putting together, they'll spend $500,000, $1 million to put together a very elaborate experience, something akin to this, only to invite 30 to 50 influencers, to the location, which I think is incredibly wild. But I'm seeing this over and over and over again. So anybody who's curious about this space and is interested in trying to do projects, those are the types of projects that you should be pursuing. Working with agencies, trying to work with big brands, knowing that that's the case, and they're also trying to capture BTS content too, all the while when they have these influencers in the space. So that was just a little bit about my project. Hope we found it interesting, and thank you again, DJ, for having me.
I had like a million questions on that one. That is great. Okay, so well, it's not the last chance for a QR code, but if you have questions, put it in there. We got one more, and we're going to actually end the live broadcast for Mr. Asif.